Hello, today we'll be doing a quick run-through of The Sixth Extinction by Elizabeth Kolbert. Let's get started. Alright, so The Sixth Extinction. So here we see a frog species that became endangered and ultimately extinct in the wild because of a fungi that attacked its ability to absorb electrolytes, which caused them to have heart attacks. And this fungi became exported from exportation of other frog species. So human exportation can cause changes in an ecosystem. And here we are able to see a point where evolution is not able to keep up for all frog species, so only a numbered few have developed resistance. Mastodon molars. So here they uncover fossils that show that an extinction may have taken place, and each animal found had developed a different anatomy than current similar animals to that species, and it served them for surviving in the wild. So they put the idea together that animals cope with the changes in their environment and adjust to their habitats that produce physical modifications on their offspring, and it allows them to better survive. And this provides evidence that natural selection and genetic drift had taken place many years before. And they also use hypothesis building to develop these theories. All right, now we have the original penguin. So Lyle believes change is gradual, and Darwin agrees, as he created natural selection, and he also created the idea of survival of the fittest. In the case of gray auks, human overhunted them to the point of extinction. So we can connect this to how case-selective species, like the gray auk, who lay only one egg a year, can in fact be overhunted to extinction, and extinction caused by humans. The luck of ammonites. So they believed, or they found evidence that an asteroid may have been the cause of past extinctions, which provided evidence to John Phillips' sketch of diversity of life. So in the sketch, we can see how these different eras had a loss of life, and many people rejected the idea of mass extinction, like in the sketch, because they believe that extinctions occur gradually, and understanding senior ellipse effect and the Lilliput effect, I believe, are important to this. So the senior effect tells us that when a fossil is found, we do not know if that fossil uh, was the first one found of its species or one of the last ones, or how close that species was to an extinction event. And the Lilliput effect just tells us that taxa shrink after asteroid impacts. And the chapter reviews what we had already known about evolution, and it showcases how a new beginning means that animals must resolve to survive in an entirely new atmosphere, leaving those unfit to extinction. Okay, so welcome to the Anthropocene. More evidence found that mass extinction had in fact taken place, and evidence showed that there were patterns of extinctions that included small bursts of extinctions. And what we uncover allows the human population to understand um, what would be left of us should an extinction occur. And the answer is that our effect on the planet will be left behind for millions of years. And Paul Crutzen, which you can see over here, created the term the Anthropocene, which was meant to be an era of largely negative human effects on the world. This chapter's sustainability is finally put into question. He gives information on human activities such as transformation of land, damming, the use of fertilizers, overfishing, and freshwater usage. And these are all ideas we have learned before that let us know we should begin to reduce them in order to maintain a more sustainable environment and ultimately a more sustainable future. So the sea around us. And this one, acidification of the ocean can have natural or made up causes, and natural would include, of course, volcanic eruptions and forest fires, while man-made would be the burning of fossil fuels into the atmosphere. And we are told that what comes up has to come down, and so that here means that 1/3 of carbon dioxide pumped into the atmosphere goes down into the oceans. And so the ocean has an acidification limit of 7.8. Anything below 7.8, the marine system crashes. So we got funded programs to try and reduce that now, and this is due to what we already understand about what rising CO2 levels can cause, and it could be poisonous to some organisms, and it can alter compounds needed by the fish. And it all ties back to sustainability, and the book gives us 80 years from now to solve the acidification issue. before we reach a peaking point of damage. All right, dropping acid. So coral reefs are being threatened by ocean acidification and climate change, and this means that there is diversity of life that is being reduced because of human causes. And the problem is that ocean acidification is not even the only problem that threatens reefs. So there's overfishing and deforestation that also lead to these negative effects. And climate change in oceans leads to similar results. So warmer temperatures break down the symbiotic relationship between coral reefs and their tenants. And this is something we are familiar with, and we understand that without symbiosis, some organisms are not able to thrive. Um, so the forest and the trees. So global warming will have an impact on all ecosystems. We know that organic development increases from the poles to the equator, where we have tropics, and these tropics are filled with diversity that can be affected if temperature changes. And a section in this chapter also talked about how plots of land were affected by landslides and had to be recolonized. And we have studied this before in ecological succession, where an entire system can be forced to start from zero because of a natural disaster. And there's also ideas in the chapter of how larger lands means more diversity. And this relates to the theory of island geogeography, where we analyze more in depth in an FRQ. Islands on dry. So deforestation in small patches of land can serve as a microcosm of deforestation across the globe. And the effects of it, such as a decrease in wildlife, in this case of a species of bird, show that even though we only analyze the bird, we can assume that if the bird population decrease, other animals also decrease with a loss of a habitat. And here they very vaguely analyze how smaller populations are more prone to extinction, which we can recognize as part of the bottleneck effect that causes genetic drift. And the major idea is that local extinctions can lead to regional extinctions, which can then lead to global extinctions. And Pangea. So bats in an ecosystem were found dead in caves, and the cause was found to be a fungus that caused the bats to develop white nose syndrome. And the fungus had been exported to the United States from Europe, which shows how other organisms have two possible outcomes when they are introduced into an ecosystem, is that they either survive or they don't. And here we come back to the symbiotic relationship, which we have learned before, and in this case the fungi acts as a parasite to the bat, ultimately killing its host in the end. Rhino gets an ultrasound. So this one is literally about a rhino being artificially inseminated because its closest mate is thousands of miles away, and well, it fails. So they build programs for endangered species and call them captive breeding programs. So what they do is they try to breed endangered species out of extinction. So they're simply helping them reproduce, and this is ironic because the same people putting them close to extinctions are now trying to get them out of it. And this is where we start to analyze the part of environmental science that deals with human interactions with the environment. And according to the book, um, they never, as in humans, never lived in harmony with nature, and we are seeing those consequences in the loss of diversity um, and deforestation and acidification of the oceans and the growing global warming and so on. So we have to understand that the interactions of humans has to change in order for sustainability to work in the future. Uh, Madness of genes. This one is interesting as Pavo led a program to sequence an entire Neanderthal genome, and they find that they are more closely related to European and Asians than they are to Africans. And this is a problem because it was believed that all human descendants came from a small population in Africa, and they come up with the leaky replacement theory, which suggests that humans and Neanderthals mated as they spread across other parts of the world, meaning that Neanderthals technically never became extinct. And they later find a third archaic human named the Denisovians. And the biggest idea present in this chapter is how the smallest bit of genetic variation between us and other archaic humans have made us um, the the top of the food chain. And with being able to change the world with our genetic variation, we also have the capacity to destroy it. And once again, we come to realize that we must work on sustainable future as intellectual beings. The thing with feathers. So the Palui bird is brought to extinction due to habitat loss in the seas, and this happened in 2004, which is to say that in 2004 we saw a species of bird die because of human causes. And the last natted Palui bird had its cells cultured and frozen after they were unable to find a potential mate, and now they have many more species getting their cells cultured and frozen because now we have a lot more endangered species as well. And like Rachel Carson said, she called this the problem of sharing Earth with other creatures, and she's the same person who prohibited DDT. And the author makes a point that life is extremely resilient, but not indefinitely so, and the sixth extinction showcases the mass extinction can be caused by human beings. If humans want to continue to pursue deteriorating the world, they will soon find themselves in an endeavor to reverse what has been done. And while some scientists argue that humans will continue to outlast their ecological problems, it will still come at a great cost.